Welcome. Welcome to people who are going to watch later, and welcome to our folks who are live with me this evening. This is our second session for LimbPower users, excuse me, and we're looking at Tai Chi and Qigong movements, particularly adapted for people living with limb loss at various levels. Last week, I introduced a set of movements called shibashi. Shibashi comes from China. Shibashi means 18, meaning that there's 18 movements in there. It was devised in the late 70s, early 80s by a professor at a sportive institute, and it seems to go down really well. There's movements that are very centered in the upper body, which is good for strengthening. There's movements later on that are challenging for balance, even if we choose to be participating seated as well. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start off seated. I'm going to push my box back. You need to see if you can give yourselves a little bit of arm space. Okay, I appreciate that you have your own personal spaces, but wherever possible, we need a bit of arm space. So just kind of be aware that you're not going to knock anything over. If you are choosing to stand up, again, just make sure that the floor is clear and that you've got some arm space. I might alternate standing and seated options as I go through each exercise. As I say, if you want to remain seated or can only remain seated throughout, that's perfectly okay. And if you want to stand up for a little while and then sit down, that's okay. Again, use your common sense. First movement, really nice. Good scene setter. Qi Shi. Just like that. Very simple, but at the same time, think about every descent of the hands being an opportunity to just turn the volume down. So by that I mean turning down the internal chatter in our heads, especially the inner critic. You know, that voice that tells us that we're either not working hard enough, not doing enough, just generally not a very useful voice to have in our heads. So just turn the volume down. If it feels right for you, you can have an in-breath on the lift, followed by an out-breath on the down. And again, in shibashi, we do movements a little bit more than we might do in some of our previous online classes. And that's kind of good because it gives us an opportunity to just get into a rhythm. We're going to do one more and then we're going to open our arms into the second movement where we open the hands out. You can see why we need a bit of arm space. And then down. That's it. So as you bring your hands down, I'm going to stand up to just show you that standing up again, like so. Again, don't worry if we end up out of sync. Now, depending if, let's say, you have a lower limb amputation and you are standing up and you've got the ability to let knees flex, that could mean that you've got a below knee amputation. It could be that you've got a rather all singing, all dancing leg with a knee component that now allows some knee flexion. So if that's the case, on the down, see if you can let the knees soften like two shock absorbers and then straighten up. If you're seated, have the notion that on every movement where we lift and open, that there's a sense of growth upwards through the torso. And then there's a sense of just letting it relax a little bit. You're not slumping, but there's always this sense of extension and growth outwards. Our next transition, I'm going to sit back down for this one. Again, doesn't matter. We're going to lift the hands overhead or overheadish, again, relative terms. And then I'm tilting as if holding a ball to one side. I'm not going to tell you which side. It doesn't matter. Go to one side, because then obviously we go to the opposite side. So it really doesn't matter whether you started on the left or the right. And again, try not to turn it into a big stretch. Try to have a sense of growth upwards so that we're not slumping into the movement. If you want to have that sense of being rooted in your seat, or if you're standing rooted in your feet, and that we could almost say being very tree-like in the wind, and that we're just flexing. So it's more of a flex than a stretch. We're going to go once more to each side. Again, don't worry which side that is for you. This is going to be the last one for me. And then just let the arms lower. Let's just have a little shake out. If you're standing up, have a little walk on the spot. Again, especially if you are standing up on a lower limb prosthesis, because that can be quite a challenge to do that. Okay, our next movement. It's called Parting the Clouds, but we, in previous incarnations of this class, call it the Fountain. Sometimes we simply call it Happy Days. But it's just two hands crossed over and then turning them forward and then opening upwards. Very simple. If you wish, again, it lends itself to a big breath in and then a big breath out as we lower. But again, only if that feels right for you. But it can just feel oh so right just to take a big breath in and then let it go as the hands go on the down. And if you want to, you can imagine that you're letting go again of all kinds of mental and emotional tension, and it's all just melting away. It's also a bit of a balance challenge, especially if you're standing up as well. To get hands and arms overhead and maintain your posture is actually quite difficult. This is something that people, certainly with lower limb amputations, can attest to. Okay, we'll do two more. Last one. Okay, so that is the fourth movement. Let's do the movement that's number 5. Here we begin to get some rotation coming into the movements. This next movement comes from Yang style Tai Chi. It's called repulse monkey. In Shibashi, it tends to be called rolling arms. Let's start off. I'll be a bit more prescriptive by looking over your right shoulder. And at the same time, gently lifting your palms up, but not too high. And then the right palm is behind you. Push it forward. And as you do so, push it all the way forward and turn to face the left hand going behind you, and then open both palms and now push the left palm forward. So we've got an alternating set of pushes. One hand pushing forwards, one hand flying backwards, shall we say, flying backwards. One hand pushes forwards while one hand flies backwards, and we're turning our head to watch that backhand turn into a push, and then we alternate. So there's a head turn as well. Keep going, because I'm going to stand up as well just to do this. Let's move my box. Here we go. Again, don't worry which side you're on. So again, this is quite a balanced challenge. We're having to rotate through the spine, shoulders, head and neck. And if we're standing up, we're having to stabilize through the legs as well, which again, can be a real balance challenge. So this is a useful exercise to build some important elements of stability and balance. Let's do 2 more. By that I mean 1 on each side. And again, don't worry which side you are on. And just finish nicely. And again, have a movement break, have a shake out, because those first 5 movements are very upper body centric. You've probably got some achy shoulders. So there's some important strengthening elements going on there as well. Okay, movement number 6 is called rowing the boat. I'll stay standing and then I might transition to sitting. A good way to start this one is palms facing forward, taking them back a little bit and then letting them lift, making circles forward, and then pushing the palms down. It's a bit like doing butterfly. If you've ever done butterfly as a swimming stroke, maybe back in the day, because it's an incredibly strenuous swimming stroke. So start off small with your circles. And again, if you're standing up with me and you've got the scope to do so, do let those knees flex like shock absorbers. If I turn to the side a little bit, you'll see that I'm dropping down into my stance and then popping back up again, if you've got the scope to do so. Again, if you're sat down, have this sense of growth on the upward movement, and then this sense of collection and concentration on the downward movement. So again, a real mobilizer of the shoulders. Again, work with your shoulders. You may not have as much range of motion as you would like, but don't push into pain. Stay within a comfortable range. We'll do 1 more. Fab. Okay. Next movement. I really like this one because it's got a very kind of poetic and kind of lovely metaphorical way of thinking about things, casting your cares away. Okay. So let's start off, whether we're seated or standing, and let's, again, I'll be a little bit more prescriptive. We're going to go to the right first of all, which means that our left hand is the one that does the casting, and we turn to the right, and it's as if I throw a ball up in the air on the right hand side with my left hand, and then I turn the palm, it presses down, and now I cast another ball to the left with my right arm, turn the palm, and I just alternate a turn, and with each turn I cast my cares away. Or if we wish, we can just think of it as a ball, and that I am passing that ball to maybe someone on each side. So that's another way to think of the movement. But again, there's some important rotation going on. And again, for those of us who are standing up, again, it can be quite a balanced challenge. It's a useful one for us if we're sat down, because it gives us some very important rotation through the spine, head and neck, starting in the seat. So again, I'm hoping that you'll feel that one. And because we're bringing the hand across the body, it emphasizes that rotation as well. So it should feel quite nice. Again, move comfortably, look in the direction to which you are passing your ball or casting your cares away. Once again, let's do one more on each side. Don't worry if we're out of sync. Lovely. Okay, once again, little walk on the spot. I'm going to pull my box up and sit down again for the next movement. We'll add another 1 or 2 movements on to this set. Our next movement is called Embrace the Moon. And again, it brings some important rotation into our movements. So if you think about it, the first 5 movements or so, first 4 at least, very shoulder centric. And now we're beginning to get more movements that are demanding some rotation and some challenges to our balance. And as we progress, we begin to find a bit more challenge going on as well. So it's a nice progressive set. So I want you to imagine that in your respective spaces, wherever you are, that up and behind you on the right is the moon. But it's also on your left as well, up and behind you. It moves, okay? And this movement is called Embrace the Moon. So again, if we're going to go to our right, I'm going to look up and point my hands up to the moon, but slightly up and behind me. The right hand is here in the lead, and my left hand is kind of just naturally falling into place, pointing in the same direction. And then I'm going to drop and relax the hands. And now imagine that the moon is on my left side, up and behind me. And I'm going to point my hands in its direction as well. So again, we've got some rotation, but we've also got this sense of lifting upwards as well. So it's a real mobilizer of the head and neck as we go from one side to the other. So just take your time with that movement. It's quite a big movement. If you think about it, there's a full sweep of the hands and arms. The torso is having to really work quite hard. And again, if you're standing up, this becomes a real balance challenge. So for those folks who are standing up, well done. For those folks who are sat down, well done as well. So it's a real good mobilizer. This is a good one if you've been sat down for a long time, maybe working at a computer. This is a good one as a good movement snack throughout the day. Any of the movements that you fancy from Shibashi make great little movement snacks. You don't have to do them all in one go. You can pick and choose. Let's make that the last one. Okay, again, little shake out. You feel that? That's a really strong movement of the whole of the spinal column, head and neck, shoulders, arms. As I say, if you did that standing up, well done. Final movement for this evening. So that will bring us all the way to movement number 9, won't it? So that's halfway through 18 movements. This one's a bit simpler, I hope so. It's called pushing palms, and it's pretty Ronseal, if it kind of does what we say on the tin. Hold your hands like so, as if holding 2 soup bowls. Once again, let's start with a right hand. And the right hand is going to tip your soup bowl, first of all. And then you're going to push across the body to the left. So look left and push that palm to your left. So again, there's more rotation. And then turn it over, catch another soup bowl. And then as you pull it back, tip the left hand and push it to the right as you look to the right. turn the palm, catch a soup ball, and now we begin to alternate pushes. Right hand goes to the left, and then left hand goes to the right. So we're pushing our palms across the body to the opposite side. And if you get a little bit muddled up at first, don't worry, you're not the only one. Because we're crossing the center line of the body with our hands, i.e. the right hand or the left hand ends up on the opposite side from where it's used to, the brain's a little bit perplexed. In this case, my right hand's gone to the left and it's just kind of wondering to itself, why is it doing that? And then when the left hand goes over to the right side, it's kind of going, and why is my left hand over there? Not that you're aware of that perplexity, but it's kind of going on. Whenever we cross the body with one hand or even one leg to the opposite side, it's a challenge for the brain to coordinate. However, if we practice it as a skill, and I'm just letting you get on with the movement while I chat away, it begins to get easier. Okay, so let's do 2 more pushes to our respective sides. So this is my last push. And then just finish really nicely. So there's the first 9 movements, and I've created a sheet which gives you all 18 movements. I've put them into chunks and I've given you a bit of a description. I need to send it over to Rebecca so that she can share it with you. So I'll get round to doing that tomorrow. Let's finish as if we've done all 18 movements and we've got to the 18th movement. So a little bonus movement. Hold the palms just down at sort of hip level if you're standing up, or just above the knees. Pick them up and just draw them in towards you. And then turn the palms and have this sense of just letting them settle down, turning, and once again gathering towards you. Lovely. Again, if it feels right for you, you can have a breath in every time you draw those hands towards you. And you could have a sense of packing away as we let the hands press down. So that all of that work that we've done is being gathered up and packed away for another time. At the same time, you could have this sense of now just gathering some nice things. I don't know what nice things mean to you, but you'll have something that comes to mind being drawn towards you. And again, just enjoy that sensation of bringing or drawing good things towards you. So this is a nice closing movement to finish off, and we'll just finish off there. Okay, so I'll go over a little bit because we started 1 or 2 minutes a little bit later because we were still getting folks in. So give me a wave with your right hand. That's it. Place that on your heart. Some people might be familiar with this exercise, others it might be brand new. Give me a wave with your left hand. Place that right on your lower abdomen. Again, it doesn't matter whether you're standing up or sat down. Take a breath in and let it go. Feel your heartbeat underneath that right hand. And you'll be able to feel the rib cage lift every time you take a breath. Not that we're turning this into a breath exercise. We're simply being aware that we are breathing. And it's also kind of nice just to know that our heart is beating as well. So you might want to say a little thank you to yourself for those 2 little blessings, that we're breathing and we've got a heartbeat. Very precious. So just settle in that for a little while. You can close your eyes if you wish and just be aware of those breaths going in and breaths going out, and of a heartbeat. You might notice that the heartbeat begins to slow a little bit as we just relax into the rhythm. Just take your time. And then when you're ready, we're going to take the top hand, it slides down the rib cage or down the breastbone or the sternum, finds the soft squidgy bit just under the rib cage, the solar plexus. And again, we rest there for a period of time. No prescriptions here. It's as long as you feel. But again, it might feel just so to take a big breath in and let it go, and then to just let your breath do its own thing. But you're just aware that you're breathing. And then when you're ready, top hand slides down, covers the bottom hand. So now we've got one hand on top of the other. Doesn't really matter which one. I just started with the right hand on top for convenience. And again, you might want to take a big breath in and just let it go. A bit like a sigh. And then just breathe comfortably. Again, if you wish, your eyes can be closed, but they don't have to be. And as much as I'd like to leave you there, we do have to finish. So we can just part our hands. Open your eyes if you did have your eyes closed. And that is the end of the session. I hope that's been an enjoyable half hour or so. I'm going to stop the recording. While I do that, you can unmute yourselves. Let me just draw a little bit nearer. Let me stop that from doing its thing.